Thank you for staying with us. You're still watching The Breakfast on Plus TV Africa. It's time to look at the global stories that has made it to the front pages of our national dailies. And joining us to review the papers this morning is Professor KAMILU FAGE. He's from the Department of Political Science, BAYERO University, KANO. Good morning, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
Always a pleasure. All right, we'll begin with The Guardian this morning, and there's a lot of information here. It says, despite 7 trillion naira subsidy savings, states failed to cushion hardship and hunger. Now, if we look at the, little data that is here, it says 2 years post-fuel subsidy removal. And of course, 7 trillion naira estimated saved in 2 years of subsidy removal. And then when we look at, the price per liter, in 2023, it was about 175 naira. In 2024, fuel went up to 1,030 naira, and obviously this is on the average. And in 2025, we saw a little bit of a reduction to 900 naira per liter. When it comes to inflation, in May 2023, inflation was 22.4%. In May 2024, it was 33.95%, and in April 2025, it was 23.71%. FAC allocation here in 2022 was 8.209 trillion. In 2023, it was 10.143 trillion, and in 2024, it was 15.26 trillion. And finally, let's look at the exchange rate. In May 2023, the exchange rate, the naira to the dollar, was 460 naira 0.702. In May 2024, it was 1,533 naira 0.99 to the dollar. And in April 2025, it is currently 1,596 naira to the dollar. What's your take on this? This is a lot of information, a lot of data, a lot of numbers. But one thing is for certain, May 2023 is definitely better than May 2025. In fact, May 2024 was really, really serious times. Even though we're starting to see that with the numbers now, we're starting to see that things are easing out a bit. But the main question here is 7 trillion naira that has been saved on fuel subsidy, but still till today, we're not able to curb hunger and hardship. Your comments, please.
Yeah, you see there's a difference between statistics on the paper and reality on the ground. The fact that, we are being bombarded by all these statistics that there is a huge gain in terms of, what you got from the subsidy. But the reality is this: if you look at what is actually happening on the ground, these statistics have failed to translate into concrete reality for a number of reasons. Number one, when you talk about the governors, getting such huge amount from PAC, and yet they fail to, put it into reality. Two things are very clear here. The fact is that the very reason why the government went into subsidy removal is the issue of corruption. And so corruption is huge, so that is why you cannot get what is being channeled from the federation account to the government. Secondly, there is issue of impunity. This thing has been going on and nothing has happened. So that is why still you cannot see the reality on the ground. And most importantly, is the fact that, yes, that there is huge gain from subsidy removal, but everything that you have now has been taken over, has been chopped up by inflation. So what it used to be, look at what you say about Naira, about 400 then, and less than 500 Naira, but now it is over 1,600. Which means about threefold. So you see, if you look at the reality of Nigeria, that most of the things that we consume here, we import it. We are just deceiving ourselves. What we used to buy, like 500 naira from outside to import it, now it has to take about 1,600 to import it. So what is the difference? We are in part retarding backwards. So that is why all these statistics have failed to translate into reality, policy reality in Nigeria.
Okay, so what are some things that you would love to see, especially knowing the fact that with the statistics, we're able to save this money? Where would you have loved to see this money go to? What are the things that you want to see solved? Because it seems like there's a lot of problems in Nigeria that maybe we're solving too many things at the same time. There is power, there's electricity now, there is infrastructure, there's healthcare, there's education, so many things. What are some of the things that you would think that maybe this fuel subsidy, if they had put it somewhere else, we would have seen maybe good dividends from it?
Yeah, you see, well, one thing is we have to look at like 3 or 4 critical areas. Number one, everything that we have to do has to translate into improving the living conditions of the ordinary person. Okay? And how do you do that? One, there is issue of security that you have to address, because without addressing the issue of security, everything will come to nothing. And then the second thing is education that we are talking about. We will have to pace it and see that we improve this condition so that we make people self-reliant. They don't have to rely on the government for everything. And thirdly is the issue of food security. Okay, a country that depends on importation of its basic needs is at parent. It cannot survive on this issue. And then number 4 is the issue of health sector. If the population are not, healthy, whatever you are going to do is not going to happen. So by the time you concentrate on these 4 critical areas, I think it will make meaning to the ordinary person, and the person will see development and will feel development. But other than this, when you are talking of infrastructure, okay, infrastructure, we are just deceiving ourselves. It is a way of siphoning money. For example, when we have this Calabar, Lagos,
Coastal Highway,
or whatever, what we have, it about 15 trillion naira. Had it been this trillion naira is pumped into these 4 critical areas, by now we'll be talking of differences.
I agree with you. I mean, in fact, for myself, I would have said if this was even pumped, same transportation, system, but railway, then, that would have even been better. And there's just a lot that you expect from the government, especially if they're saving so much from subsidy. You would expect them to at least improve the living condition for people, help with housing, because housing is a critical area that we haven't really looked at in Nigeria. People cannot even afford to buy homes. And while we're not saying, okay, we want to build affordable homes for the people, but let's move away from that. Peter Obi made a statement, and here on The Guardian it says, North holds key to solving Nigeria's problem. Of course, he was speaking at, the Northern Nigeria, one of the summit that they had, and he was saying, the North is not Nigeria's problem, but is one of Nigeria's untapped assets. And, he's calling on the leaders to do what is needful to ensure that they can, bring things together and Nigeria can start to flourish. What do you think about that statement?
Yeah, you see, politics aside, maybe he's trying to gain the support of the North, but the reality is this: North is a very critical factor in Nigerian politics. Okay? Well, look at the population. Even though it's disputable, you have this thing, but if you take the 19 northern states collectively, they constitute a little or more than 50% of the population. And democracy is about number. That is one thing. Secondly, if you look at the constitutional provision, which says that for a person to be qualified to become a president of Nigeria, he has to meet 2 basic criteria. Number 1, he must have the highest number of votes.
Yeah.
Secondly, he must have a quota of the vote in at least 24 states. So a region that has 19 states, will determine who becomes the president. And look at the population, and look at the untapped resources, abundant natural resources, and look at the weather and the environment, the fact that it is also a breadbasket of the country, and so many things. So these are the potential. But when we now reduce the whole thing to north versus south, I think we are not facing the reality that Nigeria is currently facing. So we have to know that there is no reason, no region in the country that is not important. I'm not saying North is only that, but if you take it, do that one for the politician, then if somebody is able to get all the votes in the North, he will be able to just get 19 out of the required 24, which means he has to get at least 5 from the South. Now, if somebody were to get everything in the South, which is 17, he needs 7 more states from the North. So we have to now look at how do we bridge this gap? How do we make a bridge between it? Like I said somewhere else, if you look at the success of PDP, for the 16 years, it was able to do it because it was able to build a bridge across North and South. And even APC now was able to make it because it was able to build a bridge across North and South. But the media narrative now is trying to reduce it either north or south, whereby the political elite can campaign, and we don't look at the whole thing holistically. So I think what he's saying, despite the political gimmick around it, but I think it's a reality which our politicians should take into consideration.
Anyway, so one thing he spoke about was just saying that the North is not the problem, but he also mentioned certain things, which is systemic poverty. And I'm just going to read from this, just 1 minute. So he goes, you cannot fight poverty without education, and you cannot fight insecurity without addressing hunger and hopelessness. And then he was also saying that, the region struggles with insecurity and rising criminality, which was not rooted in culture or religion, but in deep systemic poverty. So there's a lot of work that definitely needs to be done with the North, deep work, because it seems like they just want to subdue these people and make them do their bidding. And that's why you're hearing things of, Boko Haram or whatever the new one might be, Lukarawas or something. But you're hearing of, this insecurity just ravaging the North. And I think it's something that these Northern leaders have to come together to say, how can we make our region safer? How can we make it more prosperous? How can we flourish? And, put the work in, put all hands on deck, put the hands on the plow, and do the deep work to ensure that the North starts to flourish, because like Obi said, it's untapped assets. There's so many things, so many, precious stones that are in the North that we're not even being able to access, because obviously insecurity has ravaged it. But let's just move over to, another story. We'll move over now to the Nigerian Tribune, and this is more political. It says PDP, Wike withdraws from peace accords. The writers here says blames Makinde, vows to fight on till justice is served, claims credit for most PDP governor's election, controversy rages over national security. So, of course, with the PDP, there's been a lot of ruckus. In fact, some people have accused Wike of anti-party, movement, let me put it that way. But what do you think about this, the peace accord, and Wike is withdrawing from it?
Yeah, you see, PDI Wike is actually compounding issues. Quite okay, PDP, since 2015 has been having its own challenges. But what Wike is doing now is the attempt by the PDP stakeholders to get Saraki, reconciliation team or whatever they call it. But Wike now has, come out clearly to be a cog in the wheel. Okay, and there is no way that we cannot deny that he's doing the bidding or he's helping the ruling party, so he's sabotaging the system. Had it been, it is more of political differences. I don't think he will take such a position to withdraw from it. And even if it withdrawing amount to allow the system to continue, I think that will have been better. But what we are seeing is just maybe a tip of the iceberg. It's not likely just to be contented with withdrawing it. He will now come out to try to destroy the party, as he did in his own state, or is he doing in his own state. He has destroyed it there, he has destroyed the government, and now he's taking the whole party at national level. He has challenged the governor's forum, and he's now blaming Makinde for that and others. So I think he's not taking a reconciliatory position. He's just more or less like, I'm sorry to say, I don't want to use the word, but this is what the PDP people are saying, that is like the People's columnists working for, the ruling party. So he's trying to give credence to what they are saying.
All right, so still on political matters, Utomi Defense Shadow Cabinet calls for democratic renewal. Your comments, please.
No, I think that is a political mistake for Utomi. He just like, I was so surprised when himself and others said they are going to form a shadow government. That is highly unconstitutional, which if you take it, it will amount to even treason against the country, because by our own constitution, there is no provision for a shadow government. That is one thing. Secondly, even if within the parliament, like you are going to have opposition and they form their own structures and so on, these are elected representatives. They are invested by that power. But you as an individual, you come and say you are going to have it. I think is a political folly on his part. Now, I was so surprised that a person like Professor Otume will come and take that position, because he is now putting himself at direct conflict with the authority. And if they take it, there's no way he's going to escape the law. So I think it is a misadventure to do that. If you are not happy with what the government is doing, all you need to do is to organize a pressure group. Don't call yourself as a shadow government, which amounts to having a government in a government. And that is literally and legally, a serious political offense.
All right, we'll move over to the business engine now. It leads with land default. Federal government begins seizure of 4,800 FCT properties today. So, of course, Wike is doing his work there in the FCT. But what's your take on this? So land defaults, of course, you would expect that most people should have all of the necessary documents, for land use. I'm sure there are a lot of charges, land use charge and whatnot, but ensure that you have your CFO, ensure that you have all of the documents that is required. But now, clearly, if you default in that, your property will be seized. What's your take on this? 4,800 homes will be seized, and that's a huge number.
Yeah, you see, I don't think it's in terms of, CFO and others. The whole thing has to do with ground rate. This is a tendency. In all other places, tax, once it is established, people don't default on taxation. And the land, rent, ground rent is one of the things that you have to do it. So I think we have to blame the people, much as we have to also blame the authorities. The people are aware that you have to be paying ground rate, and that is what the law says. So we have to obey that direction. But the other thing that we have to blame the authorities, that why didn't they impose this thing for quite some time? By the time you have a ground rate that you are now trying to confiscate the ownership of, the CFO from people, it means they have defaulted for so many years. So where are the officials doing that? I think that what the minister ought to do is not just to punish the landowners, but look inwards and see how corruption has led to this current situation. But by the time you just take one side, I don't think you are going to help the problem. You can now straighten these things and now find them so that they can come forward and do it, and pay what is due. But at the same time, you have to look inwards and see who are capable of this problem because of corruption, and then you also take legal punitive measures on them.
Yeah, I think you answer that, quite right. You have to pay your taxes. You have to ensure that everything is to the books, and corruption is something that we definitely need to fight in this sector. There's a story here. It was one of our top trending stories, and of course, with the Port Harcourt refinery, it has to shut down for a number of days. And here on the Business NG, it says, fuel crisis looms if 30-day refinery deadline fails, and that's according to Petro. What do you think about this? Because one of the things I said is, why do we just have, I would even call it a shadow refinery working, because it's not working in optimal capacity. We have 4 refineries in Nigeria. The Warri one is not also working in full capacity. Kaduna refinery, nothing has been said about that. The second Port Harcourt refinery, we don't know what's going on with it. But even the little one that is working has to be shut down. What's your take on this, and the fact that on the Business NG it reads that fuel crisis looms if 30-day refinery deadline fails?
Yeah, you see, this issue now is now telling us that it's questioning even the idea of the regulation that we have, the removal of subsidy. And you remember before the fuel subsidy, the issue of turnaround maintenance has been a very critical issue in Nigerian oil sector. Everywhere, every year in the amber months, we tend to have queues in the name of turnaround maintenance. And here we are trying to go back to the same issue. 30 days that the refinery said they are going to work to maintain the system to I don't think it is going to be a reality. I'm sorry to say that, given the level of corruption that we have, and given mismanagement. The 30 days might have expired, and the work will not have been started. This is one thing with our bureaucracy, with our people that have the tendency to delay because they cash on that event. And the other thing why probably we are going to see a problem in Nigeria is that the reserve that we have, the one that we have, may not last up to 30 days. And even if it lasts up to 30 days, if there is deliberate attempt by the people concerned to delay the maintenance beyond 30 days, then we are going to be plunged into the crisis. And the other thing is also panic buying and fear. Now that we have come to this, people will start, oil companies and these marketers will start holding it so that they will cash on that. So these are all human factors. There are so many things that if care is not taken, we are going to be back to square one. Despite the removal of subsidy, we are going to have fuel scarcity, and then the difficulty will be compounded to our Nigerians, or on Nigerians rather.
Yeah. All right, there's a nice story here. I would say a good story for today, and it says Lagos named world's fastest growing tech city in 2025. Who would have thought? I mean, when you think of tech, you think of China, you think of Japan, maybe even the United States. They might just still be in the top list, but saying that Lagos is named the fastest growing tech city in 2025, how does that make you feel?
Yeah, you see, it makes everybody elated that one of our side, the country, is doing that. But I think there is a catch to that. Okay? Lagos could be using one of the fastest tech user, but not producer. Okay, so we have to be careful about that. Yes, we are somewhere, and it is something that, for us, not only to jubilate, but to give us incentive to now buttress this kind of thing. But the reality is that if you are talking of technology, we know we are just consumers about it. Maybe we are more effective in terms of putting it, going to that one. And the other thing is, let this experience be a challenge to our policymakers, for them to know that Lagos is not Nigeria. I mean, Nigeria is not Lagos alone, okay? These things that we are seeing in Lagos, let them try to extend it to other areas, even though we can say it is private sector that is driving the thing, but at least if we want it to benefit the country, to benefit the people, we have to cash on that and see that it goes beyond Lagos.
Yeah, and like you said, we should not just be consumers. We shouldn't just be the users of this technology. We should start to produce our own technology, because there's so many smart people in Nigeria. We see all of the tech bros, so we need to start to do more of that. I want to take this final one on the Nature News. It says Jigawa procures 26 billion naira agricultural machines. So of course I want to believe this is a good news, because maybe mechanized farming, we'll start to see more of that, because we keep talking about how we need to invest more in agriculture. What's your take on this?
Yeah, you see, it's a very good thing also. But if you know what Jigawa is, I think over 80 to 90 peasant farmers. So, and subsistence farming is what sustains the state. So, maybe what is likely going to happen is that the government will purchase all these things, but they may not be able to put it in use. Had it been the government will actually put it in use, I think we'll see drastic change in Jigawa, and in fact in the north, because Jigawa is blessed. Okay, there is agriculture. It's a very fertile area. That areas that are very good for like rice, fisheries, and so many other things. Sorghum, groundnut, and these things. So, if the government will actually put this into usage, it will be a fantastic achievement, not only for the state, but for the north and I mean for the country, and it will help. It will go a long way towards boosting food security in Nigeria. So it is a very welcome development.
All right, thank you so much for that. That's how much you can take on this segment right now. Professor, I want to say thank you for coming. It's always a pleasure having you. Thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Have a wonderful day, sir.
Same to you.
All right, we've been speaking with Professor KAMILU FAGE. He's from the Department of Political Science, BAYERO University, KANO, and we've just been taking the global stories that has made it to the front pages of our national dailies. We'll go on a short break now. When we return, we'll be discussing our first hot topic that says, well, federal government warns against fraudsters over a Emefiele linked housing estate. Please stay with us.